And we're streaming live here on A Mighty Blaze. It is Pub Day Tuesday, the day when all new books come out, whether they're brand new or new in paperback, which Donna Has Left the Building by Jane Gilman is. Donna's here with a spiffy new cover. I feel like Donna is like embodies this whole book, and I feel like I call her Donna. When Donna arrived, it was Donna. And Jane Gilman is our guest to start off the Pub Day Tuesday fun. I'm Robin Kall, your host on behalf of A Mighty Blaze, Reading with Robin. And I am always thrilled to speak with Susie. I can't believe it's June 23rd. We were together last year for the launch of Donna Has Left the Building. In person.
In person when it was in hardcover, and usually in paperback, I would be with you or someplace in a great independent bookstore or Barnes and Noble in the States and meeting with readers. So for anybody who's logging in, thank you. There's a whole new way of doing things now.
There certainly is. Susie is in Geneva, so it is 6 o'clock.
7 p.m. here. So for me, it's cocktail hour. For some of you, it's lunch, coffee break.
I have some really fancy water here, Susie. Let me give you.
Same here.
We're old friends. Not everybody will know your entire bio. I'm reading it straight off the back.
Okay.
Because I've just made things a little easier for myself these days. I could go on in a few about Jane Gilman. However, I will read the pre-approved text. Jane Gilman is the best-selling author of Hypocrite in a Poofy White Dress, Kiss My Tiara, Undress Me in the Temple of Heaven, and the novel The Ice Cream Queen of Orchard Street. She's been a commentator for NPR and written for the New York Times, the LA Times, Salon, and Ms. Magazine, among more. Ms. Magazines, among others. Her books have been published in a dozen languages. She is just the best. Visit her, SusanJaneGilman.com. Follow her, like her, love her, leave awesome reviews. Donna Has Left the Building is just out in paperback today. Yeah, every time I do that, we'll just do that.
Okay, then I'll do that. And I like the side too. If you put it on your shelf, you get this wonderful kind of liquid shiny line. They did a really beautiful job on this.
As well, they should. I love your team at Grand Central Publishing, and they did, and it's very different. Do you have the hardcover there?
I do. Let me see. Okay, I'm going to stand up. It means that hang on.
Oh, sorry.
Luckily, I put on pants, everybody. Okay,
I shouldn't have done that without giving you a heads up. I didn't think of it.
No, I've learned the hard way. Wear pants. So here's the hardcover, and here is the groovy, fabulous pop cover, delicious paperback. I'm a paperback fan, actually. I
love it. It really feels good. It's like a hefty kind of paperback. It's got a groovy summer cover, and so Donna's had a bit of a facelift. Lucky Donna.
Lucky. Not that anybody needs one, but the story is the same. Although I feel like the story really has more relevance now than even when I wrote it, which is a little, unnerving. For those of you who are tuning in, Donna Has Left the Building is really the story of Donna Kozinski, and she's a woman where her entire life implodes. She helps to detonate it, but all of a sudden everything is shattered, and she doesn't know who she is. She feels that she's become obsolete, and in the face, she takes off at this point. She takes off across America and kind of spirals down the rabbit hole of everything. I mean, it touches upon the opioid crisis and police misconduct and old loves and friendship. And she winds up in the middle of a global crisis on the other side of the globe and finds she still has a purpose and she wakes up to a bigger world. And when I wrote it, I mean, it's funny, I don't mean to be funny, but it just ends up funny, but it's kind of like, it's escapist. And at the same time, it really speaks to like what happens when your entire world blows up. How do you find your way? And I had no idea, like, I kind of wish it spoke a little less to our times, but people are telling me that they're escaping and feeling a certain kind of hope reading it in lockdown. So
it's a great thing for lockdown or for any time. I love this book so much. Susie knows, I mean, I'm a huge fan. I've read all of Susan's books. And if you haven't read them all and you're just meeting Jane Gilman here, go back, and Treat Yourself, because they're all very different. And there's Memoir and Ice Cream Queen of Orchard Street. My memory of that just
I
came
have
back.
that here.
That was, yeah, the hardcover came out 6 years ago,
Yes.
right, in 14. And my memory, Facebook reminds us how old we're getting all the time. And so that just came up, and I see the Barnes and Noble.
Oh yeah, back there. Yeah, I'm sitting in my office which looks sort of like a shrine to myself. But as any writer knows, in the midst of writing, everybody suffers incredible crises of faith in whatever we do, and it's certainly for us writers. So then I look around and I remind myself, you've written books, you can do this. So it's my go team behind me.
I love it. Yes, it's very charming and very SJG. It's very cool. And I think that one of the things that you said about how timely books are, and books that are coming out now that are especially timely, or that, are reemerging as paperback and art. I mean, of course, my first thought was, where would Donna go today? Where the hell could Donna go?
I know. In fact, I was thinking about that, like, it's called Donna Has Left the Building. And in a way, I mean, that speaks to it because it's about, breaking free. And I was joking with my agent. I was like, maybe I would retitle it Donna Has Left the Living Room, or Donna Can't Leave the Building. How would you have a nervous breakdown and a midlife crisis if you can't? She jumps in her car and takes off and winds up halfway around the world.
We should actually post that, because I've been wondering, I mean, everybody's having little crises of faith and all sorts of crises all the time. But I actually did think about how, I mean, Donna, all right, so Donna walks in on her husband in a situation, okay?
Yes.
But like, how are people with situations handling this during the pandemic? Like, how do you cheat during a pandemic when you're supposed to be in your home, or you're in lockdown, or people are more aware of your movement, or you could be bringing all sorts of things into the house? Like, it's a really shitty time for cheaters. I mean, right?
Here's the world's smallest violin playing for them, Robin.
Sometimes you have to think outside of the building, but like,
no,
you
do
about that. I might actually post that later on Facebook, because I
mean, that's sort of a good discussion question for this. I mean, if you were like to recast it now, but she does what many of us usually do, which is when, she blows up her life herself, though. It's not just her husband.
Right.
There are a lot of books where a woman finds a man cheating and then they're devastated. She takes a match to her own life in her own ways. She behaves very badly.
Well, in defense of Donna, because like, I'm such a Donna fan. I mean, she's an ex-punk rocker. She's a hardcore chick. She's going to do what she's going to do. She takes off, but like, you can't even take off now, although gas is much less expensive. So maybe you can't go anywhere. I think this is the best example of a book that could never exist in today's, like, it has to take place before this pandemic. And figures, Jane Gilman is the one that wrote it, and it's Donna Has Left the Building. It is hilarious. It is good. It's full of heart. It's Jane Gilman smart, and you really tackle a lot of very important issues and deep sensibilities, and this mother-daughter bond, and what it, like, finding yourself, a crisis of faith. And really, so it's meaningful on so many levels. And it also has this nifty guide of book discussion questions. So is this something you worked on with your editor? Or
yes, they run the questions by me, because you don't want to be asked something that you don't want to answer, and I'm a lawyer's daughter. You don't ask a question you don't know the answer to.
Oh, you're also, yes, you're also kindred spirit. I never realized that was going on in this house for so long. And I'm like, why are you even asking? But that's why. I know that. And Donna is a recovering alcoholic. So talk about how Donna has this midlife crisis, and how she manages or doesn't manage all of that while she's on the road, and talk about her path.
Sure. I mean, my impulse was, I'm a woman of a certain age, and I'm proud to be getting older because the alternative sucks. But there are all these books about men who have midlife crises, and they, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, they take off, with a bottle of ether and all these drugs. Or I even think The Odyssey was a midlife crisis. I mean, come on, 10 years to get back after the War of Troy because he keeps having affairs. But where are the books about women who have a midlife crisis and take off and behave really badly? So I was thinking about that. And yet I was also thinking that when women do take off, usually it's for self-discovery. And I wanted somebody who takes off and they really wake up, and they wake up to the world, and they wake up to a whole bigger picture than they knew existed. And that a woman who, I think it's easy as all of us get older, we feel more vulnerable because we see more of what's out there. A lot of people, Donna was a punk rocker with pink hair, she was a wild child, and she winds up married to a dentist in the suburbs. And bit by bit, she sort of like auctions off, sheds pieces of what she sees as her essential self. And I think this happens as we grow up, and particularly I see it with women. And she's trying to juggle all the parts, the kids, the house, the job, the husband, the neurotic dog who has to go to a doggy shrink, all of it.
Listen, don't go picking on the dog. The family.
Oh, I don't pick on the dog, but even the dog is in therapy. She says we have an outpatient for a pet, and she feels like she's gotten lost and that now she's obsolete. And she has one of these, my God, what have I done moments. And I love the idea of a woman who goes off and then finds that everything about herself that she thought was trivial and not important and worthless is actually a source of something that's really important for the world. And she wakes up to a much bigger, like, political, global community situation, and she finds that she has something valuable to contribute. So although it's a book that's very rooted in the year of 2015, it takes place over 2 weeks, and it's connected to the political events of the time and what was happening in the country, even Kid Rock's fish fry in Tennessee. I wanted to leave a book where people who feel at that crisis moment, like, I've lost everything, I don't know if I have value, she finds it. So in that way, I hope, like, right now it speaks to all of us who are feeling like, what are we going to do? Follow Donna.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things that when I was thinking about this interview, and I'm chatting with Susan Jane Gilman, who's Donna Has Left the Building, just came out in paperback today. And we've talked about this book a bunch because I'm a fan of it. I love it. And I'm a huge fan of Susie's, as I will slip into Susie mode. And I think that, just trying to think of other things about this book. And we have had several discussions, again, because I am such a fan and such a great book club pick. And I think that's one of the things that people are finding. They're spending a lot more time, in my circles anyway, reading and having even more discussions. And it is certainly a time of introspection and what does everything mean and where are we spending our time and what's important. So like Donna, and having that realization of all of the skill set and all of her passion can be, it is a very hopeful book, not giving anything away, even though it's out in paperback. Some people have not read it yet. Yes. So how did you sort of plot out her journey, and did you know where she was going to end up when she left the building?
I knew what was going to happen to make things blow up. And I had like a couple of places I wanted her to stop. And while I was writing it, I live here in Europe, and I was working on it in 2015-16. And here in Europe, which was less in the news is in the United States, but we had the whole Syrian refugee crisis. And all of a sudden you're seeing videos of children washing up on the shore of Greece. And it's kind of, little did I know we'd be watching videos in the United States of kids alone, in cages and missing their parents. So, you just feel that tug. And me and a few of my friends were like, well, we have to do something. I mean, and I'm a 3-hour flight from Greece, and it's $49 each way. So a friend of mine and I, we found a group, and I figured, I'm not rolling in dough, but I have time. I'm a writer. I can take a few weeks off. And I went and I volunteered at a refugee camp in Athens. And I don't want this to sound like, hi, I volunteered at a refugee camp here. No, any idiot can help out. And the world like, you sit on a floor of a shipping container and you sort through clothing, you hand out meals, you talk, or even just like the women wanted to be hugged. There were not a lot of women who had anybody to connect to. And you just go and you do what you can. It's a small thing. Nobody's saving the world. Nobody's saving people. You're just going to ameliorate the situation. And I knew that I had wanted Donna to take off and wind up someplace where she's not just finding herself, but she's realizing like time to roll up our sleeves and get to work. And I have something to give. So it melded really well with what I was working on.
I love that. And I was also follow Susie on Instagram. It's Susan J. Gilman, right?
Yes, Susan J. Gilman.
And you have such awesome selection of sandwiches. So you volunteer to soup kitchen and right, and you're making them at home. Everything's
Yeah.
very green, right? It was very like,
yes, it's very green. But you know, I volunteered a soup kitchen here. I mean, I feel like yeah, there's a quote, and I'm blanking on was it Alice Walker who said
oh, don't ask me. I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah, who said activism, activism is the rent we pay for, for being on this planet. I'm bungling, I probably got the quote wrong.
I like the essence.
And the attribution wrong, but I feel like, I'm a writer, and I'm lucky enough to spend my life doing what I love to do and what I dreamed of. So, give back. And also sitting at home during this pandemic, you want to help. We all feel helpless. So I volunteered a soup kitchen here in Geneva. I've been doing it for years, and now we're making sandwiches at home. And I thought, oh, that'll be easy. 70 sandwiches, that is hard work.
I know it's an assembly line, and so then you make them at home and then you deliver them.
And then you wrap them up and you label them, and we can't do anything pork, we can't do anything beef because we've all and I then try not to eat one yourself because I'm a girl who likes to eat, and you just wrap it up and I walk it over there. So that's what I'm doing now. But I feel like especially if I'm in between books, if I'm not writing.
Yeah. You're keeping busy doing something meaningful, but this is a thread throughout your life. I mean, these are the things that you do that add to the world. I mean, you're such a woman of the world, and it's reflected in your books, and it's reflected in everything, that you post on Instagram, and follow Susan on Twitter. Also, you can like her Facebook page. You're watching us now on A Mighty Blaze. You can just skibble over to Susan J. Gilman and hit like and skibble back, and we'll still be here. And you do hear and I know that you're willing to meet with book clubs.
Oh yeah, in fact, I mean, or there's one that's in California, and they meet at night, so it's about 3 a.m. my time. So I'm going to send a little video over. But I've gotten really good at Zoom, really good with Skype.
I know. We started at the beginning of all of this, and we did a Zoom, and that feels like eons ago. I mean,
yeah,
it really does. Thinking about June 23rd and the paperback launch felt very far away.
Yeah.
And here we are. I'm just looking at some of these questions. This one I love. Donna herself admits that tracking down old lovers on Facebook so common, it's cliche, yet she pursues Zach anyway. What do you think about that, and how dangerous can Facebook be?
Oh, Facebook can be great. It depends what you go. It can be incredibly dangerous depending on what you go in there for. Everybody's curious about their exes, and by exes, not just like ex-lovers, ex-friends, some kid in nursery school. You're like, I wonder what happened to them. I guess it depends, like how secure you are and how honest you are with yourself. I have to say, I'm married to the amazing Bob.
You are married to the
and when I brought Bob home to meet my family, my uncle Paul, who's quite the character, said, "Bob, our Susie has had quite the past."
Is that what he said that?
He said that, and Bob looked at him without batting an eye, and he goes, "I know. That's why I'm marrying her." So my husband knows, we met when I was 31, and besides, I put all of it in books anyway. Yeah. So I'm friends with most of my exes, and once in a while you go on and I look them up, but mostly just out of like, are they still alive? Like, has life been okay? But
right. No, I know. And sometimes people do go down the rabbit hole, but that also speaks to everything else that's going on. It's natural curiosity. So just thinking about Donna doing that, and then wondering, the expectations you put on what a person was like and what you hope they still might be. And are they so, what was attractive at one time certainly may no longer be. attractive, especially if they're still the same, maybe.
You know what I find is useful, and I did this with, one of my friend's daughters who I'm really close to. She had a guy who was just breaking her heart and treating her badly. And I was able to go on Facebook and show her a couple pictures of the guys who had broken my heart when I was 16, 17. And now, sometimes they're not looking so good. And I'm like, okay, one day, and it really kind of helps.
That's a very helpful thing.
Yeah, it gives you perspective. I'm like, I used to go nuts over him. I used to there'd be a song and it would be like, it would think about and drive myself crazy. Now look at him,
Did that must have really, that's so relatable.
It is. I mean, the problem is when you're 17, you never believe you're going to be 34 or 52 or 70,
But that's valuable advice. Now, who are these fellows? Let me look them up as well. Yeah,
well, with any luck, some of them are watching. I'm not naming names.
no, we never know. And one of the things you mentioned, the amazing Bob, and one of my favorite places to start in a book is always the acknowledgments. And Susie says here,
Oh.
character Donna remarked that none of us are heroes. However, I do have a hero in my real life. And she goes on to talk about her beloved Bob. So I thought that was really beautiful. I'm not reading the whole thing. You'll have
No.
You'll have to buy it.
Oh, right.
Donna has left the building to see what else Jane Gilman has to say about the amazing Bob. I mean, it's
actually, there's a marriage in here, and I loved writing the marriage, and it is clearly a flawed marriage. But when I was, my husband is a Chicago boy, and when I was in Chicago doing the book reading, his whole family turned out. So I had to make it very clear, and I will state again, this is fiction. There is nothing my husband has in common with Joey, the husband in the book, except they both pick their cuticles. That is it. That is a habit I took from my husband and put, that drives me crazy, that I put in the book. Nothing else, not except, okay, Midwestern, white, Polish. That's it.
That's it. Oh, so the cuticle thing it's so funny, like even after all these years, certain habits, like you sort of stop seeing them, but then when you sit down to write a book and you take attributes, do you go, oh, that is sort of still in my head? Or
every writer has what I call the button box, and we just we observe constantly. You take notes, put things aside, and then, and sometimes too, I'll work on a short story and it won't quite work. And then I'm working on a piece in a novel and I take something from one character. I mean, you're constantly doing it. It's just part of the process.
Yeah. I love the idea of a button box because we had one, or button jar.
Button jar.
Yeah. I mean, the funny thing is that everybody else has those irritating habits, but of course we do not.
No.
Right? No, of course
right. Not. Live with a writer, people. You live with a writer. If you can live with a writer, you can live with anybody.
It is a really interesting dynamic because, I mean, I also find that I'm certainly friends with a lot of writers. And so it's an interesting thing to see, like, I've been known to say things and then have somebody go, "Ooh, can I use that?" Or, "Oh, or scribbling happening." And it's like, wait, what'd I say?
Or if you, sometimes like I'll go out with other writers, and if you have writers all together and somebody has a good line, it's almost like, like a platter has been put in the middle of the table and everybody's like, like, I'm using that, or can I, you see it going off, especially when
he wants the well done French fry. Absolutely.
That's a good line. I'm going to use that. Everybody wants the well done French fry. Right. See, people writing it down. You're going to find that in one of the future books.
Pearls, you never know. So what are you working on? I never actually asked you that because I remember when you were working on Ice Cream Queen, and I knew you were working on something, and I didn't even ask. And so when that book ever came out, I was like, how is she working on that so quietly? Plus ice cream.
I know. Here's what I'm working on. I'm working on staying sane. I'm working on nothing, Robin. I've written a couple little op-ed pieces, but right now, and I don't know if there are other writers out there who feel this way. Gosh, I hope so. I know I have a few friends who are like, oh, I just finished 3 books, and oh, I'm using lockdown. Shakespeare wrote Macbeth during the plague. I'm like, I mean, we all know I'm not Shakespeare, but you really don't want to have that in you. I can't write right now. I mean, first of all, usually when I finish a book, And, I was on book tour for a while last year, and that's exhausting. And normally I'd be in the States promoting this sort of in person, but when I finish a book anyway, I need to let my fields lie fallow. But right now, with everything going on in the world, I feel like we're being shaken up like a snow globe. And I think Caroline Levitt said, oh my God, I'm working on a book. I have to set it before the pandemic. And there is a sense of being in the middle of history, which is exciting, terrifying, unnerving. I can't write. I can barely concentrate. I'm reading, but I'm reading like a few paragraphs or chapters a day when I used to go through books. I'm putting things down and forgetting where I put them. I'm having moments where I wake up just filled with dread. And then I have other moments where I try to take a step back, maybe it's my writer's mind, and see how this moment in time, we might look back at it and say, that was a turning point where things got better. And I feel like my perspective going back and forth. So I really don't have, I'm working on equilibrium. I don't, it's rough. It's
gallant triumph to be working even on equilibrium, I would say. And from what I've heard, mostly people are not writing, and the reading.
Oh, that's a relief.
No, I'm taking my own straw poll, and I would say, 80% not writing or 75% not writing, but also the reading. And so there's so many great books to read, and it's so interesting to be speaking to people who want to read, and they, of course, and we're sharing all these great books. And
if you want to read, time for the plug. Don't split the building. Yes.
This is a short thing, and that's what I've been telling people. Like, pick up a short thing, so you will be dragged in. I mean, dragged in. You'll be lulled in. Right here, the morning of my 45th birthday, I woke up to a cop knocking on my windshield. What else do you need to know? Right there. I mean, opening sentence, drawn in. But I've been recommending the books that I just so enjoyed, mostly like, that I read in the winter that were coming out this summer. So I knew they were short things because you really just want to be taken away. And so
yes.
Maybe in March and April, the reading was tough, but I sort of got back into it in May, maybe. And I've been reading some really great stuff. So that makes me feel good. And also it's a problem because I'm sharing books. So I kind of had a, because you don't know how long this is going to go on for.
And you're also doing your big summer book bash, which I'm very excited about.
Yes, thank you.
4 books, a book a week, so everybody can read together all summer long.
It was an ambitious project. I love the word ambitious, which, I'm full of ambition, but I didn't realize all of the little nuances because those are details after all. So they're all coming together well. And yeah, you're a July pick. So
I'm a July pick.
We'll chatting about it again. And I think that because my original idea was an in-person idea. And so then I had to pivot to an online. So if it was in person and there were 4 authors, now we're online, why not 12? And it's, really great way to shine a light, and they're all winners. So I'm sort of focusing on those 12 for the summer because that's a lot.
Yeah. I mean, even for you and me, I mean, there are times, and like, if readers are out there, I do want to say this. As a writer, you have to read. You have to read well to write well. It's something when I teach writing courses, I tell all the time. I read books and they're like fevers. They just come over me. I try to drop everything else. And then when they're done, I'll say, that was amazing. A week later, somebody will say, what are you reading? And I won't be able to remember the title. I won't be able to remember the author. I won't be able to remember what happened. I'll just be like, that was an amazing book by that person about that thing.
That's why I adore you, because that's often how I do a review. And, you do get so caught up and it's so exciting. And I try and remember. And as you know, when we host events, I'm always like, just remember a few titles because that will come up. And that is the only thing that trips up people. And so,
well, you know that I used to do book reviews for NPR's All Things Considered. And one day I was in Barnes & Noble and there's a book by Karen Armstrong called The History of God. And I'm like, oh, and I say to Bob, I was like, oh, this looks like a book I would like. And I turned it over to see who blurbed it. I did. I had reviewed it on no memory whatsoever. And so I was asked to write a blog when the Ice Cream Queen of Orchard Street came out called What I'm Reading Now. And I called it, What Am I Reading Now? Don't ask me, I can't remember. And I've always been like that since I was a little kid, just sucked in by books, and then it breaks. It's like a hallucination.
it is like a great book is like a hallucination. I know that the folks at Mighty Blaze are just jotting that down. Whoever's doing it right now, I'm sure.
Don't do drugs, read books, read books.
Read books, read really great books. And it is such a treat. It's Susan Jane Gilman. Donna has
Oh,
left the building.
Donna's it's like book aerobics. Okay, now everybody pick it up.
Who says we're not exercising? Exactly. Look at all of this energy. So this is like steps. This is almost like steps. Go to susanjanegilman.com and follow her on Twitter, like her on Facebook, follow her on Instagram, check out her groovy sandwiches, and you're just going to fall in love with Donna like I did, and Susan Jane Gilman. Read them all. Susie, thank you so much. On behalf of my
total pleasure.
Such a treat. And I will see you again soon.
Yes.
See you at the end of July.
Yes, we have a summer book bash to do. And to all the readers out there, thank you. Thanks for your time, for your attention. Just keep on keeping on. It's rough times. We're all in this together.
Yeah, there we are. It's late there, so go enjoy the rest of your evening.
And I will.
We will continue to celebrate Pub Day because we have a few more hours there than you do now. So it's still Pub Day here. So when you go to sleep, it's still Pub Day in the States.
Great. So if people can, if you're not recovering alcoholics like my main character, go drink your favorite cocktail for me. If you can, eat a scoop of ice cream because that's like close to my heart. Read a book, do something, be good to yourselves, folks.
Yeah, take good care. And on behalf of Mighty Blaze, on Pub Day, Susan Jane Gilman, I will be back at 2:30 with Hannah Orenstein, Head Over Heels. So I'm going to go get ready for that. See you later, Susie.
Take care, darling.